Okay. So yesterday we learned on Daf Chav Zayin, we learned about should you marry first a Duma or a Bas Duma. Rav Yochanan said better marry a Duma because you know where her yichus is from. I'm sorry, Rav Yochanan said better marry a Bas Duma because you know at least she's not the Zana, so therefore she'll be mutter to you. Shmuel said better marry a Duma because at least you know who her yichus is. Then we had the concept of Roiv Be'ilois Achar Abal. Then we had the Shaila, if Isha Mesaberes, Samach Levester, Samach Letfilosa. And then we had the halacha of Bezdin, is Mekana. We had a Machlokes, if that could lead to Hashka, does the husband himself have to make the kinui, or is the Bezdin's kinui good enough? Then we had the Hekesh of Asher sister Tachas Isha Tachas Isha, to say that whatever limitations there would be on the women is on the man and vice versa. So a suma, which disqualifies a man, would also disqualify a woman. A chigeres and a gidmis, which would, and then the lemis as well, that would disqualify a woman, will also disqualify a man. Then we had a beautiful Mishnah about all the different halachas that were said on that great day. So one is Kashem Shemayim Boit K'noisah, Kachamayim Boit K'noisah, and then we had Kashem Shasur Labal, Kachasur Laboil. Then we had the halacha of the klicheres, the halacha that Rabbi Kiva learned from the klicheres that a sheni could make a shlishi even for chulin. Then we had as well as the Baby the shaila of the 1,000 amas and the 2,000 amas around the Ari Levium, what they were for, 1,000 for parkland. The second 1,000 was on the one shot to tell you about Chum Shabbos, and the second shot to tell you that you need to have sodas ukromim around the city. Then we had a Joshua Moshe.
Can I just ask something bothering me yesterday? You're calling this a halacha, those 6 things that were established. If just like it's baidik her, it's baidik him, that's a mitzias. How do you call it a halacha?
Maybe I misspoke. I don't think the Mishnah uses the word halacha.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, even Rabbi Akiva's drasha that a sheni makes a shlishi for chulin, we don't paskin like that. We paskin a shlishi is only relevant for truma. So,
okay,
I
so
think
that's
the drashas that were made.
That's something that you can paskin on, right? That, you know, because it's not explicit in the Torah.
But it was wrong. I mean, no, we don't paskin like that.
Right, but I'm talking about if the idea of how is that supposed to be a decision? If it's baidik, when it's baidik her, it's also baidik him. It either is or isn't.
Why are you saying that it's a decision? It was just a drasha. Dorash. They darshan something that they learned from a pasuk. It's not necessarily a psak halacha.
Okay. You want to look at it that way. Okay. That's not how I understood it.
It's a discussion of how they said the Shira, right? Why? That's not a halacha. It happened a long time ago. It's not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
It's just a drasha of how to understand the pasuk.
Oh, okay.
Or the shaila of Eov was Oived HaKadosh Baruch Hu Miyir Mehava. That's, I mean, I don't see how that could be a halachic issue. It's just a drasha, something that they uncovered, that they gleaned from the pasuk that up until then no one had noticed.
Okay.
Okay, Gabalti. So let's now start from the Gemara at the bottom line of Chav Zayin Amud Beis. The bottom line is that we got to get started. Also, Yosy. What does Yosy mean? Laman. Who is the Yosy? Kem shemayim boit k'noisah, kachamayim boit k'noisah. Who is the person that the mayim is going to be boitik? Ilema lebal. If the Baal is going to be nivdak when she drinks, Baal ma'ovid. The Baal is innocent. Why would he get nivdak? V'chitema. And if you're going to say that what it means is the ispe avon bat kilei, if he has an avera, then bat kilei maya. Correct the Gemara, but that's not true because ki ispe avon b'didei mi bat kilei maya l'dida. When he has an avon, the mayim doesn't work. The mayim is not even boydek her. But Tanya v'nika ishmei avain, v'isha he tisas avaina, is mancha ish menukama avain. When the husband is menukama avain, hamayim boydek nisishloim. Eina ish menukama avain, ein hamayim boydek nisishloim. So we have a discussion here. If the husband is not menukama avain, would he get punished? Wouldn't he get punished? Would the mayim hamarim work? Would they not work? What type of avain are we talking about? So Rashi tells us the avain that we're talking about is the isbe avain shaba aleh la'acha shenister. That is the one aver we're talking about. If he was ba'aleh after she was already usher to him, but she was nistar, excuse me, that is the aver we're talking about. That the Gemara thought the Havamina would be boydek him, and the Gemara Lamaskana said it would actually cause the whole water to get disqualified. If but there are those Rishonim who actually learn that Isbe Avain is not limited to this one Avera of him living with his wife after she was Nister. Rather, it means if he had ever been Mizana in his life, that's what the Gemara is saying would impact him. And there are those who learn that if he did an Avera in his life, it would also impact that the Mei HaMarim wouldn't work. Not just Lagavi this Avera, which is a little bit of a Kiddush. Thank you so much, Bobby. Okay, so let's read the Gemara back. So it can't be referring to the Baal because, of course, it doesn't make sense to say that if the Baal did an Avera, he's going to be punished from the Mei HaMarim, because in fact we know that actually it'll defang the Mei HaMarim, it won't even work. What it must mean is that the same way she suffers the effects of the Mei Sotah, so too her paramur, I think that's the word that Peter Stern taught me, will also suffer those things. Break the Gemara, if that's what it means, so why does it speak in such a cryptic fashion? Let it just say, listening. It should say boil. Just like you find in the Sefer, when the Mishnah tells us Allah, it uses the word boil beferish. It doesn't say Kshem Shasura loy kachasura loy or something. It says very clearly what it's referring to. So that's what the Mishnah should have said. Kshem Shamayim Boitkin Ha'isha Kachamayim Boitkin as a boil. It actually doesn't mean the boil. How come it didn't say boil beferish? Reisha Idi the Tana Isa Tana Isai. Since the Torah used the word Isa to describe her, so the parallel would be Isai. Seifa Idi the Tana Baal Tana boil. So just a matter of the smoothest speech to select, but in fact Isai does mean the boil. Shenemar Uba'u Uba'u. We learn from the word Uba'u Uba'u that Kishem Shamayim Boitkin Isa Kach Hamayim Boitkin Isai. Okay, so let's have a look at the Gemara here. Iboilu. Is it Ba'u Uba'u Kamar? Is it from the fact that the Torah adds a vav in front of the word Uba'u in one place? Or is the limud from the fact that it mentions Uba'u in the pasuk twice? Uba'u Uba'u Kamar. Zoktamor Tashma. The Brisa says, Kishem Shasur Labal, Kach Asur Laboil. Shenemar, Nitma Vinitma. Vadayin Tibai. What is the limud of Nitma or Vinitma? Remember, in the Mishnah, we brought two Tanoim. One held the limud was from the fact that there's a vav in front of the Vinitma, and the other one was being medayik from the fact that the Torah says Nitma twice. So the Gemara here says Vadayin Tibai. When it says Nitma Vinitma, and that's the limud, what exactly is this limud? Is it Nitma Ka'amar because the pasuk is mentioned twice, the word is mentioned twice? Or Nitma Vinitma Ka'amar, or is it merely a diuk from the fact that there's an extra vav? Tashma. So the Gemara wants to bring a raya to know exactly what the limud is. Midikatani Seifa, the Seifa says, Rabbi Omer, Shnei Pa'amim Ha'amurin Beparsha, V'nitma, the twice that it says in the Parsha, V'nitma, Echad Labal, V'echad Laboil. So if that's Rebbe who is commenting upon Rabbi Akiva, that it's from the two times it mentions the word in the pasuk, Michlal de Rabbi Akiva Vav Kadosh. It must be that what Rabbi Akiva meant was just darshaning the Vav Avinitma to include the Isser the boil as well. Hilchach. So now if we break down the entire Sukkim, the entire parsha of Sotah, we will in fact find out that Toshisa Kroi Ksiva. There's three psukim mentioned that we're going to analyze. And I think it's important for us to get an understanding of it, is to actually look at these psukim inside. And Rashi points out that the three psukim we're looking for are Uvo Hamayim Hama'arim, V'hishke Esa Isha, and then Uvo Vo Hamayim. So let's have a look at the pasuk inside, and then it'll make a lot more sense as to what the Torah is telling us here. So I'm going to bring up the Chumash and we'll look at this together. It says Uvo V'shbiakoin, right? And then it says Uvo Hamayim Hama'arim Ha'ela B'mayayach Latz Bois Beten V'lad Pil Yarech. That's the first time it mentions it. Then the pasuk says a little bit later, V'hishka Esa Isha Esmei Hamarim Hamarim Uvo Va Hamayim Hamarim Lamarim. So I believe, and then it says again, V'hishka Hamayim V'hayisham Nitma V'timal Mal B'isha Uvo Va Hamayim Hamarim Lamarim V'tzavsa Bitna V'nafla L'Recha. So these are the three psukim that the Gemara is talking about, which is taking us through the parsha of Sotah. And the Gemara explains to us what these three psukim are. Zok the Gemara, according to Rabbi Akiva, we have 6 psukim that we can use to darshan. Shita kroiksiva, chad letzavadi da, chad letzavadi da. So let's look in Rashi, how Rashi breaks it down very nicely. Shloisha uvo ksuvim sham. 3 times it says in the parsha uvo. One place, the first pasuk we pointed out was uvo amayim hama'orim ha'ela b'meyayich latzbois beten. That was the first time it's mentioned. That's laiduya lanu. The reason why the Torah tells us that is to tell us the beten v'hadar yerech. That's to tell us that even though earlier it said first yerech and then beten, the Torah wants to make it very clear so that people shouldn't say that it's not accurate. So shaloi lahitzilas. Again, we pointed out last time when we learned this, how fascinating it is. She's blowing up, she's exploding, she's going to be in 1,000 pieces soon, and she's been saying, it's all a sheker because it didn't happen in the right order. Right? That's similar to the kachatzois halayla and the bachatzois halayla. If it wouldn't have happened exactly at chatzois, even though all the B'chaim would have died, Paro said, I don't believe you. Didn't happen at the right time. Right? That's almost insanity, but it shows us how our Yetzer Hara works. So the first time it mentions Uvo Hamayim Hamarim is to make sure that we accurately know what's going to occur. B'chad, in the next pasuk, V'hishka Esa Isha Esmei Hamarim Hamarim Uvo Hamayim. That was the second time. That Litzavo, that's because the Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us what to do. So Kadosh Baruch Hu Geyser will not just us what to do, telling the water what to do. So Kadosh Baruch Hu Geyser Sheyevo Bo Hamayim L'Morim. Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying this is what should happen. The Mayim should go in and explode her. V'chad, and the third time the pasuk says v'hishke esamayim v'oisin nitma. That's a narration as to what actually occurred. Lasia. So kana dia kosav es Yisrael the maftiach lahen sheyivdeku amay. So first, the Torah tells us the order so that we should know what the order is. Shaloi la'izilaz. The next pasuk is to tell us Hashem is being betzaveh to the water, to the Metzias. This is what should occur when she drinks. And the third one is this, the Torah narrating this is in fact what occurred. U'b'chulam ksiv vav yisera. In all these three psukim, there's an extra vav. Hareshis, that leaves us with a net of 6 limudim to harness or to harvest. So let's have a look in the Gemara inside again. Shita Kraiksivi. Chad letzavah dida, the chad letzavah didei. Once, so the Torah is telling the water, you're going to destroy the woman, you're going to destroy the man. Chad la'asiyah dida, the chad la'asiyah didei. And one, the last set of psukim, as Rashi points out, is to say what's actually going to happen. And chad liyadiyah dida, v'chad liyadiyah didei. And one is to let us know that what's really going to occur is first the beten will be impacted, and then the yerech. So you have 6 psukim, and this is what we learn from the 6 psukim. But for Rebbe, who doesn't darshan the vav, Rebbe just darshans the fact that the words mentioned twice, so he's only left with 3 limudim plus a kroiksim. Chad letzavah, chad la'asiyah, v'chad la'asiyah, v'chad liyadiyah. So for the Gemara, since he doesn't have any extra psukim, the Rebbe keshem shamayim boit kenoisa, kach boit kenoisai minalei. Rabbi Kiva has the extra vav in each case to apply what we learned in the pasuk regarding the woman, applies also to the man, applies to the boil as well. But where does Rabbi get this information from? It says in the pasuk, latzbois boten v'lanpil yareich. It says it neutral. It doesn't have the male gender and doesn't have a female gender. Bitnoi v'yarecha shall boil. It must be referring to the boil. Practic Gemara, ata oimer bitna v'yarecha shall boil, oy ein ela bitna v'yarecha shall nevelas. Dr. Gemara, you can't mean that. Kishu oimer b'tzavsa bitna v'nafla yarecha, which is in the 3rd pasuk where it's talking about the asiyah. It already says what's going to happen. Hare bitna v'yarecha shall nevelas amr. So I don't need it to tell me the order. Umani mekayim latbois botan v'lanpil yerech, to tell you that it's bitna v'yarecha shall boil. What about Rabbi Kiva? So what does he do with his extra limud? Who the moidel akoyin the button bereisha v'hader yerech. That pasuk he uses to teach us what's going to happen. So that shaloi lahitzi las alamayim hamorim. Ve'idich, but Rabbi who needs to learn 2 things from it. A is the order to lahitzi shaloi lahitzi las, as well as that kishim shemayim boikin noisah kachamayim boikin noisah. Where does he see 2 things in the same pasuk? Because in Kain lichtlev kra bitna v'yirecha. If all the pasuk was trying to tell us was the order in which things are going to happen, but it's happening to the woman, so it should have been in female tense. My beten v'yerech. Since the Torah used an unusual expression, shmamin ala boil, the Torah is telling us as well that this will happen to the boil as well. Maybe Vibaltas button in Yorech, that's the only purpose of the pasuk, is to tell you that it happens to the man as well. How do you know that the Torah is telling you the right order? So the Gemara, because if that's all it was going to say, the Torah should have used a specific male tense word. It didn't. It used something that was neutral. My betten v'yerech shmamin yatarti v'aystecha. The Torah is trying to tell us 2 halachas. A, you should know what's going to happen first is the betten and then the yerech, and as well, whatever is going to happen to the man, to the woman, will happen to the man as well. About it. Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Kacha Yudayrish Zechariah. This is how Zechariah ben Akatzev darshan. Rashi says that Rabbi Omer Shnei Pam Amor B'Parsha Nitma V'Nitma Achad Labal V'Achad Labal. Zok the Gemara Baita. Sholish Pam Amor B'Parsha. It says Im Nitma V'Nitma Lama. Why does it say these 3 words? Why does it need to say these 3 times? Zok the Gemara Echad Labal V'Echad Labayil V'Echad Latruma. One tells me that she's usher to the Baal, one tells me that she's usher to the boil, and one tells me that she may not eat truma. What does that mean, Zot Rashi? Rashi says, Shafilu hi bas koyin, ubayla koyin, she's going to be nifsala minat truma. Okay. Zot the Gemara, Dibber Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Kiva is telling you a halacha that a woman who's soiser, she may not eat truma It doesn't matter if she's a bas kohen, and even if she's a bas kohen married to a kohen, she will no longer be able to do truma. Amar Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel seems to be having a kasha, making a ha'ara on Rabbi Kiva. And he says, why do you need any psukim? Kal v'chomer. You could learn what you are telling us, which halacha we'll see soon, but the halacha that you're trying to teach us from the Nitma, you should be able to know it from a kal v'chomer. And here's the kal v'chomer. Uma grusha shemutaris letruma. Madach grusha. So someone married a kohenes married a Yisrael. While she's a Yisrael, she can no longer eat truma. But if her husband dies and they don't have any children, now this grusha goes back to her father's home and is able to eat truma. As Rashi says, Baskoin shenis garshim Yisrael v'zera ein lo shemu teresh betruma. So madich a grusha is who's mutter to truma is asura lekahuna. She may not marry a kohen. A grusha may no longer marry a kohen. Zu, this woman, this Sotah, she asura betruma, who's asura betruma. Einay din shasura lekahuna. It's kol sheken she should be asur lekahuna. This is a very gavaltic kasha. It's just not a kasha on Rabbi Kiva. Because where did Rabbi Kiva say any limud that she's asur lekahuna? If Rabbi Kiva would have had a pasuk to say that this woman is asur lekahuna, then Rabbi Shmuel's kasha would be very good. Why do you need a pasuk? You have a kal v'chomer. But Rabbi Kiva didn't say a single word about asur lekahuna. All Rabbi Kiva said was that she's not allowed to eat truma. And that's what Rashi points out. Rabbi Kiva is not even talking about that. He never said you need a pasuk to tell you that she's tula l'kahuna. He didn't discuss it at all. Rabbi Shmuel. What exactly is Rabbi Shmuel asking on Rabbi Kiva? So we'll see that soon. So Rabbi Shmuel goes on. Since we have a kal v'chomer to say that this woman is asura l'kahuna, why do we need a pasuk? Ma tamid loymar. Why do we need it? Now, it says v'hi nitma'a v'hi loy nitma'a. If you look it up in the pasuk, let's see the pasuk inside. It says v'abar lav ruach kina v'kines ishtoi v'hi nitma'a. Oy abar lav ruach kina v'kines ishtoi v'hi loy nitma'a. If we know she was nitma, then there's no Safek. If we know she was loy nitma, it's not a Safek. So the Gemara is going to ask a side kasha. Why is the pasuk saying when it's discussing the Safek that she's nitma or she's not nitma? Im nitma lama shoisa. If she's tamei, we know she's guilty. Why would she need to drink for a beer? If it's speaking the im nitma, and im loy nitma, and if we know she wasn't matama, again lama mashka. I guess it's funny the difference in lashon. Could be im nitma lama shoisa. If she knows she's tamei, why would she drink? If loy nitma, if we know she's innocent, lama mashka, why would we force her to drink? Magid lachakasav. So the pasuk in this specific pasuk that says v'nitma loy nitma is telling us a chiddush. Shasafek asura. It's telling us that a safek is aser bevadoyis, which means if it's a safek, if it was nitma or loy nitma, we treat it as if she was nitma. And let's see Rashi. Maybe I'm making a mistake. This is Rabbi Shmuel. So far, we don't know who's talking here. I don't know who's talking. It seems like the Bryce is talking by itself. Rashi says over here, "V'alav Rabbi Shmuel l'chudeka amar la elastamahi." We basically finished Rabbi Shmuel, and now we're changing the topic, and we're starting a new ha'ara. So Zok Rashi on the second wide line. This is what the pasuk means to say. Ishazu shema nitma v'shema lo nitma. It's not vaday nitma and vaday lo nitma. Because amar lach the yeshkena, even though it's a suffix, she must drink. Levarer hasveika. V'iloi mashkala asura. But if she doesn't drink, she's going to be asur. So the Torah is telling us that when she's in a suffix, we don't consider it to be suffix asur because it's a suffix. When she's in this matzav of suffix, she's vaday asur. Magid l'chakosuf shas suffix asura. It teaches you that on the suffix, she's vaday is asur. Now that we have so it's basically like we have a hakra. Whenever this woman is in a suffix, whether or not she was nitmas or not, the psak halacha is we fear that she was vaday nitma. We cannot have done. This is a threshold. We're walking into the sugya now of Hilchas Tuma v'Tayra, Mikanatadon l'sheretz. If you have a sheretz and we're not sure if it touched the keli or not, if it made something tummy. As Rashi speaks out, Safek noga b'tahayros, Safek loy noga. We have a Safek if a sheretz was matama tahayros. The halach is the mechasakinin law b'tuma misafek. Just like here, when there's a Safek, we say she's vadei asura, vadei tamei. So too, when you have a Safek tuma in Rishus HaYachid, as the Gemara is going to clarify soon, if you have a Safek if a sheretz touched a piece of the Tahirus or not, we paskin that it's vadai tamei. It's not a Safek. Sotah. A woman who is mizana b'shoygig is not treated like a woman who is mizana b'mezid. Or ba'onis karatzai. Nevertheless, also b'safek vadai. So a site is very keel because it's only going to be tamei if she did it b'mezid. Yet, if there's a safek whether she did it or not, we paskin b'vadois that she's a surah. Sheretz. Shenasa b'shoygig k'mezid. We don't care if the sheretz touched Tahirus by mistake or not. The halach is regardless it's tamei. The oinus karotzen. So sheretz is more chomer because the reason why it occurred is irrelevant. How it occurred is irrelevant. If Tuma touched Tahirus, it becomes tamei. So surely it should also have that chomer that misavik it's vadai tameya. Einoidin sheyasaboy safek vadai. So let's have a look in Rashi. Sotah loy osaba dechsiv vehi loy nitpasa asura hanitpasa muteres. So you see clearly that if she's nenas, she's not also, she's not tameya. What's an example of a shogig? His wife and another Eishes was with him in the house. It was dark. He didn't know who he was dealing with. That's called shogig. She also made a mistake, this Eishes. She thought that the man that she was with was her husband. So there she would not become a surah. So sheretz was so much more chomer because no matter how it occurred, it still is with tameh. Surely it should be tameh misafik. Kavadai. So surely the sotah should be tameh misafik kavadai. Umimakim shabasa. So you're creating a halacha. We're learning from sotah to Safek Tuma that Safek Tuma is going to be tameh. Now let's analyze and drill down into the conditions. Ma sotah umimakim shabasa. Zokrashi hoyel v'loy l'madata the mitamina misafek ela misayta. Since the whole makar of the halacha that your mitama misafek is sotah, then chazor v'dain. Now let's get the details of this Safek tamei is tamei. Let's get the details of it from sotah v'dain. The ma sotah hadet tameim b'safek is b'rishus hayachid hu. It's only when the Safek occurred in Rishus HaYachid, which is Makom Haroyili Saser. You cannot have stira in the public. It has to be Rishus HaYachid. And remember, here Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim are defined very differently than they're defined Lagabe Haitzai Shabbos. This, as we learned, means if there are two people secluded alone, that's Rishus HaYachid. If there's more than two people there, that's Rishus HaRabim. Av Tuma b'Rishus HaYachid Svekoi Tamei. So to Tuma, when do we say Svekoi Tamei? That's only if it's in a Rishus HaYachid. Avo b'Rishus HaRabim Torah. So let's see the Gemara in Torah. The Mokum Shabasa. Masoi to Rishus HaYachid. Av Sheret Rishus HaYachid. I'm sorry. That's right. That's what I'm trying to point out. This halacha of Safek Tuma b'Rishus HaYachid Svekoi Tamei it's not totally in the Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim of Shabbos. It's told if there's more than two people there. And there's another limitation. Uma Sotah davar sheyesh b'das l'shoyel. Sotah, where we have this chumrah that misafek, it's vadai hamei, that's only if there's someone there that would have been able to identify for us what happened. And of course, there's a man and a woman there. There's definitely someone there who has the answer. We just don't know it. Ab sheret, so too, the chumrah of Safek Tamei b'Rishus HaYachid, Svekoi Tamei, is only if there was someone there that could have answered our question. Dover sheyesh boidas lishoyel. So we can amru. So therefore, first let's see exactly how we define You can't ask a sheretz. How is there someone to ask about what happened in the case of a sheretz? So Rashi explains it. You can ask her, you can ask him what happened. Safek Tuma. So too, when we're machmer by Safek Tuma, it's only in a case where davar sheyesh boy b'noigei hazeh das li shoyel im naga im lav hu omer ein yedea. If it's a question of a person having a safek whether or not he touched the sheretz and whether or not he's tamei, so you could ask him. You could ask him, did you or didn't you? He might not know, but he's a person that could have known. That's when we're subject to the halacha of Safek Tama b'shus hayachid. But it's also when there's a item involved. So if there's time a piece of tires lying and we're not sure if a sheretz walked by and touched it, this does not have the chumrah of Safek Tama b'shus hayachid tzvekei tamei. But if you were working with the hiris, and while you were working with it, we had a safek, maybe a sheretz came and touched it, so that's called Rabbi Sheish B'dash HaShoyel, even though the Taharis itself is inanimate, and you can't ask it, but a person was there during that situation, the situation is considered Dober Sheyesh B'dash HaShoyel, and it will be subject to the Halacha L'Moshe Missinai, or not Halacha L'Moshe, to the, it is as Halacha L'Moshe Missinai, or it's a dik from a pasuk of Safek Tama, which is a Yachid, Tzvekei Tamei. So it's actually, we're learning it out of a pasuk, right? We learned it out from Nitmas, from Nitmas. So we learn a chumrah of Safek Tamei Sheyach Tzvekei Tamei only if it's a davar sheyesh b'das lishoyel. So from here we can figure out davar sheyesh b'das lishoyel. If you have A, it's a davar sheyesh b'das lishoyel, and B, it's b'shus hayachid. The halach is Tzvekei Tamei, but b'shus harabim Tzvekei Toha. Now we're going to have to focus on this for a second. We have a Gzeirus HaKosav, we have a limud that b'shus hayachid Tzvekei Tamei. Do we have a Gzeirus HaKosav that b'shus harabim Tzvekei Toha, or maybe b'shus harabim it remains a suffix? Do we have a special limud that says b'shus harabim it's b'dafka Toha? Also could be there's a chazukah, so that's something I want to get back to depending on our timing. And v'she'ein b'das l'shoyel, and if the davar she'ein b'das l'shoyel, bein b'shus hayachid, bein b'shus harabim, tzvekei tahar. Gewaltig. Dr. Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel. So now the Gemara is asking Rabbi Shmuel. I don't understand what you're asking on Rabbi Kiva. Amar Rabbi Kiva Truma, u'mahadar le'ihu kahuna. Right, going back, we got diverted. We had a little conversation between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva, and then the Gemara completely changed subjects and learned from the this halakha of Safek Tuma. So now we're getting back to the original brayse. You, Rabbi Shmuel, were asking why do you need a pasuk Rabbi Kiva to tell you that she's asher l'kahuna? Of course she's asher l'kahuna. The problem is Rabbi Kiva wasn't talking about asher l'kahuna. Visu Rabbi Kiva kahuna minale. How do you even know that Rabbi Kiva agrees that it's asher? So let's see Rashi. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Kiva ve'echad l'truma v'kamhadar le'iu eitzach mikra l'havi b'kahuna. Visumi bailan Rabbi Kiva l'ari b'kahuna. Rabbi Kiva, who doesn't darshan this pasuk about anything to do with whether or not this woman is mutter to kohen or aser, how taka does he know? Minale d'asur l'kahuna emeiseh. How does Rabbi Kiva know? We know the halach is a woman is a Sotah, and her husband died, and she never had to bear her. Is this woman allowed to marry a kohen? The halach is she's not. How does Rabbi Kiva know this from? Well, the shari, you can't suggest that maybe Rabbi Kiva would hold that this woman would be able to marry a kohen. The hashta l'truma aser la l'kahuna meboy. Rabbi Kiva said she's permanently disqualified from eating truma. So you're going to suggest that she could marry a kohen? And you can't say it's the Kal V'chomer that he learned it from. Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel is the one who learned it from the Kal V'chomer. Rabbi Shmuel is asking, why do you need a pasuk of a Kal V'chomer? So Vice the Rabbi Kiva is masking to the halacha, and Vice the he must know it from somewhere else. So where is this other place where he knows it from? And if you're going to say you don't need a pasuk by kahuna, Rashi, you know why? It's pashut that she's also to marry a kohen, a woman who's in this matzav. She's a Sotah. The Torah treated this woman who's only a Safek Zoyna, yet the Torah treated her like a Vadai Zoyna, Right? That was the whole limit that we just learned. That we made her, we passed him bevadai, so if she's treated like a vadai zoyna, I don't need tzukim anymore. We know a kohen can't marry a zoyna. So Dr. Gemara on Amar Aleph, Sharai Asaba Safek Zoina Kizaina. So therefore, I don't need a Kal V'chomer, I don't need a pasuk. So now I'm a little bit torn. What should we do now? Should we continue going weiter? Or since we have about 10 minutes, let's try to learn the Tosfos that discusses Safek Tuma B'Shus HaRabim Svekei Tar. Is that a Vadai or is that a Safek? Is that a Chazaka? Like we discussed earlier. What should we do, Mati? So we can do the Tosfos, although I didn't prepare it, but I'm very interested in it. So let's try doing the Tosfos, and Nolan will help me if I get stuck. Mikan Amru Safek Tuma B'Shus HaRabim Svekei Tar. The Parakama de Shchitas Chulin, in the first parak of Chulin, Uba Parak in Mamidim, Omar, the Safek Tama, B'Shus HaRabim, Hilchasa Gemirla Misoita. That would be mashma. The Davke B'Makom Stira Tame, Alba Shaloi B'Makom Stira, Gemiri the Torah Vadahi. It's mashma that the same way you have a limit from Sotah, that when there's a Safek Tama B'Shus HaYochid, we treat it like a Vadai Tame. When it's B'Shus HaRabim, it's a limit. We don't leave it to the default. That's also included in the limud that we say it's Vadai Tahar. That's what it's mashma from the Loshen Hagemara in Chulin and in Avodah Zarah. Frek Tosfos v'Tema. L'mai itzrich hilchasa. Why would I need a halacha to teach us this? Like Chaim said, Lema Hame Torah al Cheskosai. You just go to the default. The default says there's a Cheskos Tahira, the Emer Lo Nitma, and say that this Tuma never happened. And this is exactly what the Gemara says in the beginning of Maseches Nida. Rabbi Shimon Gomer Law, Misavik Tomei B'Shus HaRabim, V'Omar V'Rabbanon Haki Ashta, Hasam Gavra B'Cheskes Tahirakai, Misveika Le'Machtin Le'Tuma. So you see the Rabbanon commented beferish. I don't need any limudim. I have a chazaka of Tahira, the Cheskes Tahir. It's a subject if this thing became Tomei or not. I don't need limudim. The default rules of the Torah say you should follow the chazaka. V'yeshlomer zaktoises ilav hilchasa the gamrinon the b'shus harabim tar. If you didn't have a mefurish halacha teaching us that it's tar b'vadai, havamina, I might have thought stira the nakat kra. Really, even Safek Tomei b'shus harabim is svekei tomei. I lemaisa by Sotah, it's speaking. It's in a secluded area. I would have thought. Really, the limit from Sotah is Safek Tomei is Vadei Tomei, and it's Zai B'Shus HaYochid, Shai B'Shus HaRabim. I by Sotah it happened to have been B'Shus HaYochid. That's because that's normally when these things occur, but not to say that if the same thing occurred in the B'Shus HaRabim, we wouldn't be machmer. Maybe we would be machmer regardless. It's just that punkt. That's the case. That's the typical case of Sotah. Would always be Tomei. So that's why you couldn't rely on the Chazaka. Because we might learn from Sotah that the halacha of Safek Tomei applies to everything. So we actually need Menebe in the limud to limit its scope. The misvara ein l'tayarzu yoyse mizu. Minasvara, there's no reason to say that just because it happened in Rosh Hashanah that it didn't touch, and just because it happened in Rosh Hashanah did touch, there's no reason to make a distinction. I would have thought the Gzeres Melech Kachi. There's a Gzeres from the king, from the Rebbeinu Shalom, that the whole Safek Tomei. Hilchach, Itzrich Hilchasa, we need a Hilchas to say, go back to the Chazaka, Lahamid Safek Tuma, which is a Rabbi Machaskasa, the Loi Machkina Le Tuma Misafek. So you actually need a special limud from Sotah to tell you that this only applies to Rosh Hashanah and not to Rosh Hashanah, because you might mistakenly think that this applies to Rosh Hashanah as well, and the Torah is telling you to ignore the Cheskes Torah. Kamash Malon, we're pulling back. We're just telling you halacha by B'Shus HaYochid and by B'Shus HaRabim, we're going to leave it to the default. So in fact, it's both. We need the limud to tell you that don't take the limud of B'Shus HaYochid too far. That's why you can't do amateur drushes. Now I want to look at another Tosfos because it actually is a little bit of a chazara of Nazir. Rishus HaRabbim Safek Torah. Makshina and Perik Shnei Nazirin. They ask a kasha on this Gemara from Perik Shnei Nazirin. The Tanan we learned Shnei Nazirin Shahamalon Echad. There were two Nazirim, and somebody told them, Ra'isi Echad Mikem Shanitma. I know one of you two became Tamei Tumas Meis. The Eini Yodea Ezim Mikemu. And I don't know which one it is. So the halacha is, we learned over there in Nazir that Shneim Mavin carbon Tuma. Misofik, they both have to bring a carbon as if they became Tamei. The Kadai the Gemara, and the Gemara asked, I don't understand. Biamai, called Safek Tuma Mehechet Gemiri. Where do we know that Safek Tuma is Tamei? We know it from Sotah. Oibazoy, I can ask, Ma Sotah boil v'nevelas. Just like by Sotah, what defines Rishus HaYachid is that there's a maximum of two people involved. Afkol Safek Tuma Rishus HaYachid is going to betray. But here there's these two Nazirim and there's the person who claims he saw them. Once it's three, then have a lay Safek Tuma Rishus HaRabbim. Alma Yosy here. Whenever there's three people there, it's no longer considered Rishus HaYachid, it's considered Rishus HaRabbim. Imkain, now that we've established that what defines Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabbim is two is a Rishus HaYachid and three is Rishus HaRabbim, Imkain Hadatan bePerka Isha, She Yosef Trachea. Shalish Nashim, so Yishenis B'mita, there are three women that were in one bed, She Yishenis B'mita Achas, and then they all got up, V'nim Sedam Tachas Achas Mahen, and on the sheet there was dam under the position of one of these three women. Nevertheless, kulan tmeyos, we're choshid that the dam came from each one of them, and they're all tamei. Am I Tosfos? The whole reason why we're going to be macher because of Safek Tamei Rishus HaYachid Tvekei Tamei. This is not Rishus HaYachid. Once you determine that three is a company, three is a crowd, so then why is it that the Gemara was macher over there? Miyuzak Tosfos. You can't really ask a kasha from that case. The loy dami l'sheretz. It's not comparable to sheretz. The sheretz efshir shaloi naga the Torah. In the case of sheretz, it's possible that there's no tuma here at all if the sheretz didn't touch. Aval hosam achas men vaday tmeyahi. One of them we know for sure is tamei. Sheyotza dami gufa. Without a doubt, for sure, one of these women are tamei. So that's already a much bigger rayus on the cheskes taira. How could you possibly say that they're vaday tohar when we know for a fact that one of these women might be tamei? Therefore, Zaktoisus, it's like the case of Shnei Shvilin, where there's two paths. One person went in one path and one went in the other path, and one of these paths for sure has Tuma in them. You cannot paskin on these two people together that they're both tar because it was Rishus HaRabbim, because it's impossible that that could have occurred. But you know where we will have a problem? Makshinam. Titnan. We learned. What does it mean that from the time the woman saw, we'll say she's tamei from there and on, but we don't will actively metame something that she touched in the past because maybe she didn't notice that she had already become tamei earlier. In the following case, she was sitting on the bed, and she was working, she was touching tahiris. And then she finished and she moved on to something else. And then she saw that she was tamei nida. So the law is he tameya v'chulan tahiris. She will be tamei v'chulan tahiris because we'll assume that when she saw her dam, that's when she became tamei, which was after she was dealing with the tahiris. The daik b'gemara, there the Gemara is medayik, haima the dayashaita. The reason why is because we say dayashaita, we say that we assume that when she saw the dam, that's when she became tamei, not earlier. So if you would learn that we are choshid and we're metame anything that she touched for the past 24 hours, because maybe she already saw dam earlier, she just didn't notice it, well then mita nami metame. So then the bed would also be tamei, not just the tahiris, because Anita sitting on the bed is metame the bed. Michti. Davar shein b'das l'shoyel, a bed is a davar shein b'das l'shoyel. Svei kaitar. So oibazoi, why would we say that it's tamei? Tomorrow tirgama kishachavreisea noises oisa b'mita. It's speaking not time she was on the bed. She was being carried by others on the bed. The havilah yad chavreisea. So therefore, it's the Yarab or Chaver there. So there, it's no longer a Davar Shem V'Dach L'Shoyel. We consider the bed an extension of the women carrying it. Break the Gemara, Soif, Chaver He Havisholish. And now you made it worse. Now you have the problem that it's a Rishus Harabim, Bavali, Safek, Tome, Rishus Harabim, V'Mayim Taminala. So why would you make her Tome? The Loy Chashvina and Tuma Rishus Harabim Elahecha, and this is a very important Yosy. It's not called Tome Rishus Harabim Elahecha. The Sveka Hoysa Yechoila Liyos Galuya Lakoil, only in a case where the Safek could have been Galuya Lakoil. Since it was three people there, it could have been seen by everybody. Kagoy Nahida Nazir, Betishat Svardim, the Sheretz Echad Beneim, Aval Hida Nida, but in the case of Nida, Hamaga Vadai Hu Shinaga Bemita. We know for sure she touched the bed. That's not a Safek. Vein Shum Safek El Imrasa Ilav. So yes, all of these women would have seen did she touch the bed or not. But there's no way, even if there's a whole bunch of women around, that they could know whether she was pierced nida or not. And the suffix that was noiled was whether or not she was pierced nida. Even if she's in public, the mokim where dam comes out, that's going to be considered rishus hayochid no matter what. Okay, we'll stop here. But you see, there's a lot of details to the rule of Safek Tama Rishus Yochid. What is Rishus Yochid? What is Rishus Harabim? You go with Chazak or not? So now we got a little bit of a glimpse into the Sugya Baruch Hashem, and we'll stop here, and we will namshich tomorrow. Oh, today's Yom Ha'atzmaut. Mazel Tov. Mazel, we should be zoichet in many more years. The Shiach will come in,